Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste, glory divine, and heir of salvation, purchase of God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story. Oh, this is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, perfect delight, visions of rapture now burst on my side. Angels descending, bring from above, echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story. Oh, this is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story. This is my song, oh, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, all is at rest, and I in my Savior am happy and blessed, watching and waiting, looking above, oh, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story. Oh, this is my story. Oh, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story. Oh, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story. Oh, this is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior Your presence is enough. You are with me. You are with me. Father, you're for me. Fear will never conquer me. 'Cause I belong to Jesus. I'm never alone. Never abandoned. Fear will never conquer me. I belong to Jesus. When I feel the pressure, oh, I won't run away, even in tension. Your presence is enough when I'm in the mystery. Oh, I will stand my ground. My God, you are enough. You are with me. Oh, you are with me. Father, you're for me. You will never conquer me. I belong to Jesus. I'm never alone, never abandoned. Fear will never conquer me. I belong to Jesus. You are with me. Oh, you are with me. Father, you're for me. Fear will never conquer me. I belong to Jesus. I'm never alone, never abandoned. Fear will never conquer me. I belong to Jesus. But I feel the rain when the floods came, when the wind knew I was okay. You were right there. You're in every step I take. When the night falls, when my heart aches, if I stumble, I will not break. You'll be right there. You're in every step I take. You're my shepherd, you're my keeper, my provider, my protector. You surround me, you're in every step I take. You're the goodness, you're the constant, you're my first love and my future. You surround me, you're in every step I take. You are with me. Father, you're for me. Fear will never conquer me. 'Cause I belong to Jesus. No, I'm never alone, never abandoned. Oh, fear will never conquer me. 'Cause I belong to Jesus. You're my shepherd, you're my keeper, my provider, my protector. You surround me, you're in every step I take. You're the goodness, you're the constant, you're my first love and my future. You surround me, you're in every step I take. You are with me. Father, you're for me. Fear will never conquer me. 'Cause I belong to Jesus. I'm never alone, never abandoned. Oh, fear will never conquer me. I belong to Jesus. Fear will never, oh, fear will never conquer me. 'Cause I belong to Jesus. Oh, fear will never conquer me. 'Cause I belong to Jesus. crushing, in the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. Yeah. In the soul I now surrender. Oh, you are breaking new ground. So I yield to you into your careful will. When I trust you, I don't need to understand. Lord, make me a vessel. Make me an offering. Make me whatever you want me to be. Lord, I came here with nothing, and all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. In the crashing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. Oh, in the soul I now surrender. Oh, you are breaking new ground. So I yield to you into your careful hand. And when I trust you, I don't need to understand. Don't make me a vessel, or make me an offering. Make me whatever you want me to be. Lord, I came here with nothing, and all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom. The kingdom is here. Let out my old flames, carry your new fire today. Lord, make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Lord, I came here with nothing, and all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, oh, there is new power, there is new freedom. The kingdom is here. I lay down my old flames, carry your new fire today. Make me a vessel, Lord, make me a vessel. Make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Lord, I came here with nothing, and all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Lord, that's our prayer today, Lord, that you would bring new wine. Amen.
Okay, well, I'm Tisa, and welcome to the Bridge Church. Hi. And what do? I do announcements. Of course I do. So I am not going up the step today. I recently had a birthday and fell and hurt myself at lunch. Yeah, and anybody who wants the details can contact Liz directly or Emma, because, yeah, everyone was there and it was amazing. But I'm just reminded that humbling experiences are from God, and I hope I can always be humbled, for sure. Laying on the floor at Jimmy John's is a bit of a humbling experience, so just throwing that out there. Anyway, the thing I'm actually supposed to talk about, these blankets are reproducing. There are more blankets here now than there were last week. So we're asking, kindly, that if anybody needs a blanket, if you are cold in your home, if you're cold in your car, if you are just cold, there are so many blankets, and these are actually really, really nice blankets. This would be like something to purchase. So we're not asking for you to purchase it. Totally go get some blankets. They're in the back, kind of around the corner, like if you're going to the restrooms, on a table. No judgment, no matter what you pick out, or if you pick out more than one. It's all good. We're just getting a, yes, Brian. That would be amazing. What a generous thought. Yes, yes, absolutely. So please, another follow-up question. Only I take questions. Go ahead.
Allowing them to continue to reproduce. Should you have extra blankets and we need more for them? Like, is this now a thing?
I'm seeing mixed reactions from the audience. Would you like to have a poll, or would you like to tell us what is happening?
I was asking you. I don't know.
I am really not in charge of these blankets. So I'm going to say, show of hands. Show of hands. Who would like to bring blankets and feels like this is a thing and you would, yeah, so yes, I'm now in charge of blankets. I would love it if everyone could bring them laundered. I will help you if you need help with that, but I would really love anything that's donated to be, a nicer quality and washed. That's all. So if you can bring a washed blanket, amazing. I've got you, and I will make sure these blankets get to where they need to go, apparently. Okay.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's words, they hurt you more than they actually helped you? Yeah. And what did you actually need in that moment? I just need them to shut up. When you are in a hard place in your heart, in your life, yours or maybe someone else's, when maybe you have a friend who is struggling and they're in a really hard place, are you the person to go in and try and fix things, explain things, or are you the one that goes and sits in silence? Rhetorical question. Yeah. I don't want anyone to look like an idiot. We all do it enough on our own. We don't need help. I'm going to pray. God, we ask for words of life, the kind of words that don't just sit on a page, but and they're not even just spoken, but they grow us, and they call forth life in us. Because you are always calling life out of us. So this morning, use these words to stir something deep within me and to move us forward and to help us follow you, even when the road is rough. Amen. Jesus, in his classic fashion, he starts what is known as the Sermon on the Mount. And he starts with something that is so unexpected and radical. He sits down, he looks at the followers, the men and women, this ragtag group of people that are following him, hungering, just excited for his words. And then Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." And then I hear this and I go, wow, this is going to be such a good, feel-good message this morning. Fantastic. And And I just go, this is not what I want to hear Jesus come right out of the gate with. This is not what I want to hear when I'm about to hear this message about the kingdom of God. I don't want to hear if you're broken and hurting and empty and grieving and struggling. Then you are in the perfect position for God's kingdom to show up in your life. And the second one was for those who are mourning, and that's a hard one because mourning, grieving, means to get out here the things that are going on in here. That's what that means. Mourning is not just the emotion or the weight, it is to get it out. Mourning means to get it out of you, to release it. And it means grieving the fact that life isn't perfect, that we aren't perfect, that we have wounds and regrets and losses, and there are things in there that we would rather ignore. And I'd rather go a different direction. And sometimes I find it very difficult to be human, because to be human means to feel things that I don't always want to feel, whether it's pain, sadness, or disappointment. And all of us, we get to be and have had a lifetime of growing to be experts at avoiding some of the pain and avoiding some of the hurts, because we're really good at distractions. And every one of us, we all have different unique coping skills for the pain that we have when it hits us. And we have entire industries in our culture dedicated to not feeling pain. You can get a self-help book, you can go to a podcast, get a good subscription service. For me, it'd be a good pint of ice cream, like a Haagen-Dazs strawberry. Oh, it's a weakness. All of it to find a way to either distract, or maybe you go spend money. Maybe you're the person who buys more toys, or you go and you run to porn or alcohol. Gambling. We all have different things. Or maybe it's just anger, or maybe it's completely shutting down and pushing people out of your life. We all have different coping skills, every one of us. And they're all unhealthy. If that is what we're running to deny, ignore, or to run from that pain. But Jesus, he doesn't numb it out. Jesus actually says that mourning is the way that you're going to get comfort, that if you want to be comforted, you have to be willing to feel that loss. And that is tough, because I don't like to feel those things. Because one of the things I hate about it is it makes me vulnerable. And it means admitting that I can't do life on my own, and that I need help, and that I don't have it all figured out, and I don't have it together, and I start to feel weak, and that I need people. And most of us, we don't like to need. We want to be self-sufficient. I want to be in control. I want to pull myself up by my bootstraps, or at least have that image. And then I'm going to post about how great life really is. And I put the happy smile face pictures on Instagram so that everyone sees how great I'm doing. Me and my family, we're doing all these great, wonderful things. But Jesus, he flips the script and says, it's those who are mourning that are getting out here, the stuff going on here, they're the ones that are going to get comforted. It's those who acknowledge their brokenness, who don't pretend that they're fine when they're really not, who let themselves actually feel, they're the ones that are going to start to experience the presence of God in ways that those who are avoiding will never. They're going to be the ones that hear the voice of God. And so often that's really what we want more than anything else. And I wonder, have we as a culture gotten better at avoiding pain than maybe any culture before us? Have we mastered this art of denial? Because when you look at the people in Jesus' time, and it could just be my limited perception, but it seems like they were more comfortable feeling their pain and their loss, including Jesus himself. Because in John 11, I love this, there's this passage that tells us that Jesus has a friend that he just loves deeply. His name is Lazarus, and he gets this message that Lazarus is sick, so he and his disciples are like, hey, we got to start wrapping up what it is that we're doing. We need to go see the guy. But he shows up 4 days late. It took him a while to get there. It took him a while. He didn't, wrap things up fast enough so that when he gets to where his friend is, his friend is dead. And it's this incredibly raw emotional scene where Lazarus is dead, and his sisters, Mary and Martha, they're just these two women, and they're heartbroken. And you have this whole community of people that love Lazarus, and they're all just grieving. And verse 33 tells us, says, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. And they take him to the tomb, and Jesus just starts to weep. And he just weeps. And the Son of God, the one who created all things, all life came through him. He stops and lets him feel the weight of loss. And he didn't rush past it. He didn't pretend it doesn't hurt. He enters fully into this moment of human sorrow that I would be running from. But Jesus doesn't just cry. He weeps. And I go, that is huge. Why did he allow that? First of all, he wasn't the only one weeping. Mary, the sisters, they were weeping, and you have these Jewish mourners that were weeping. And when I picture this scene in my mind, I don't have this quiet little peaceful gathering where people are just kind of dabbing their eyes very, very gently. This was chaotic. This was loud. This was gut-wrenching grief coming out of the souls of people. I mean, you have these, first of all, the Jewish mourners. In their culture, mourning is not a private thing. These people love to mourn. They're very good at it. They practiced it. You had professional mourners. They were paid to go and wail and weep. I mean, they were good at their job. They knew how to grieve. They knew how to cry louder than anyone else. They knew the exact right moment where they would tear their clothes and throw dirt on their heads, and they could throw dirt like the best of them. And if there had been an Oscar category for best dramatic wailing, these guys would have taken home the trophy every year. They were amazing people at this whole wailing and grief. So there was this emotion and noise and wailing and trilling of the voices and this cacophony. And in the middle of all this noise, though, there's this kind of sacred rhythm of grief that was happening in this culture. It's one of the most beautiful things. It was a practice that they called sitting Shiva. Has anyone ever heard that? To sit Shiva, sitting Shiva. It's this beautiful thing because Shiva means 7. And for 7 days, the closest friends and family, they would just sit with the person who is mourning, who's grieving, who has had deep loss. And here's the key. Oh, this is beautiful. You weren't supposed to say anything. You just showed up and you sat. No fixing, no explaining, no awkward theological lectures, no bumper sticker slogans about why everything happens for a reason. You just sat there and you shut your mouth and you just sat and you hurt with them. It was about presence. And that is so contradictory or opposite maybe of what we do today. We are a very wordy culture, and we think, well, we've got to fill the silence with these explanations, maybe these Hallmark card wisdom moments, and that's not what they did in their world. The less said was the better. There's actually a great example of this in the Bible in the story of Job. Job goes through this incredible loss. His wealth, his health, his family, they're all gone, and he's got these 3 friends that they come and visit him. You've got Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. Fantastic names. And these 3 guys, they come, they hear about the pain and loss of Job, and they come and sit with Job. And at first, they're really good at it. They nail it down. They're all stars. They show up, they sit with them, they say nothing. For 7 days, they get it right. And they just hurt. And they sit with a friend who's sitting in ashes, and they acknowledge the pain. But then they open their mouths. And everything kind of goes off the rails at that point. They start to explain his suffering. They start looking for reasons and solutions. They try to make some theological statements about his pain and trying to understand God. And And they're looking for the right words, as if maybe if we say enough, we'll figure out and make sense of why there's pain and hurt and suffering in this world. And eventually, Job just looks at them and basically says, you guys really suck at this. You just shut up. Their goal was to bring comfort, but instead, they actually, in the end, just made things worse. And so we're going to kind of dive a little bit into that today, what it means to truly comfort others, because there are some things that Job's friends did really well, and there are some things that they did not do well at all. And if we're honest, most of us have been on both sides of the equation, where we've been in the one who've been in desperate pain that has been deep and gut-wrenching, and we're just wanting someone to sit with us, not even do anything for us, not even say anything. And we've also been the well-meaning friend who, in our effort to fix things, we really just make things worse. The story begins in Job, chapter 1. There once was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz, and he was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. And then the story goes on to tell more about Job. And I mean, he had it all. He had the wealth. He had an amazing family. And he had this great reputation in the community. He had 10 kids. And that's not a family. That's a basketball team with a deep bench. And he was successful. He was respected. The kind of guy who probably, he would get stopped in town for, people were like, give us some of your financial wisdom. We want to know, how do we do better? We want some of your advice. And then just boom, in the blink of an eye, everything about his life changed, gone. His children lost, his wealth gone, his standing in the community vanished. Even his health starts to go against him, and he's covered from head to toe with these boils, which if you don't know what that is, you just imagine the worst skin condition that you could ever had, and then it's even worse than that. And then he has these 3 friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, who hear about it, and they did something beautiful. It says in chapter 2, verse 11, they got together and they traveled from their home to comfort and console him. Yeah, that's it. And when they saw Job from a distance, they scarcely recognized him. Wailing loudly, they tore their clothes and threw dust in the air over their heads to show their grief. Similar to the scene when Jesus was visiting his friend Lazarus. And then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and nights. Nailed it. No one said a word to Job, for they saw that his suffering was too great for words. They showed up, they wept with him, they tore their robes, they threw dust on their heads, and then they just sat with him for 7 days. And they didn't say a word because they saw how great his suffering was. That's sitting Shiva. It's this sacred, ancient practice of just being there for people that you love. No fixing, no explaining, not trying to make their pain smaller, just presence. And if you've ever been in that moment where someone you care about is hurting so deeply that you don't even know what to say, maybe you have a good sense of to just be there, to let your presence do the talking. Some of us, and myself included, we have this compulsion to fill the room with words. And I go, what is that even about? And I think it's because deep down, I feel like I'm supposed to fix it. Like maybe I'm supposed to have some profound insight, some God-approved explanation that makes sense of everything. And if we don't, well then maybe, what kind of pastor am I? Well, what good did your degree do you? Why are you even a pastor? You can't solve this. Well, what kind of friend are you? What kind of Christian are you? What kind of human are you if you can't solve this? What kind of man are you? But the thing is, I don't actually know what God is doing. I don't really have any more insight than anyone else. And when we start to try and explain what it is that God is doing, I know for a fact, I will 99% of the time be wrong. I know that. And you need to know that I know that. Which is why you're like, why isn't he saying more when I'm in pain? Because I don't know. And I don't want to be an idiot. I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth. I don't know what to say. I do not have a more direct hotline to what God is trying to say. I don't know what God is doing in your life. My job is for me to lean into what God is doing in my life, and that is my job. My job as a pastor is not to know what is going on in your life. That is your job. My job is to just love you and encourage you to listen and hear God. But I feel this need where I feel like I'm supposed to. And I need to help make sense of things. And sometimes I say really stupid things. I'm trying to minimize that. And really it's for your protection, mostly for mine. A couple years ago, I was at a funeral, and there was a kid who had died. And the pastor, I'm sure he meant really well. He stood up in front of the devastated parents during this funeral, and he said, God must have needed another angel. I couldn't believe it came out of his mouth. Like, what are you even saying? That God's running low on angels, so they needed your kid? Stop! That is a horrible thing to say. And I know he had good intentions, but just stupid stuff comes out of our mouths. And I don't know if he even believed it. But you don't tell someone who lost their child that God needed another angel. And Emma had told me, if she had been there, she would have punched him. And I'm like, yeah. Like, that made me smile. Sometimes the most loving thing that we can say is to literally shut our mouths and say nothing. So how do we bring comfort to the people that we love? Because Job's friends, they started strong. They got the first part right, but then they started to talk, and that's when everything went off track. So imagine this. You've been sitting with Job for 7 days. And we've had 7 days of silence, 7 days of watching our friend who was once the guy that everyone admired. They were on the top of their game. The whole community looked up to them. And now they're sitting in ashes and in agony. And then, finally, it says in chapter 3, after this, Job opened his mouth. And we put ourselves in that moment, and we've been there waiting, and you're like, all right, what is he finally going to say? Maybe something like, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for coming here. I so appreciate it. This has really been brutal, but you know what? God's good. God's in control. Everything happens for a reason. When God closes a door, he's going to open a window. And if Job had said that would have been, yeah. Oh, Job, what? Oh, that's so good, Job. Such great perspective. Wow, you're an inspiration. Oh, we're so encouraged. Like we came to comfort you, but you're comforting us. Oh, this is so good. And we would all walk away feeling really great about this. Like we understand how God works, and our little religious Christian cliches, they still make sense. And it may not be true, but they're still intact. But that's not what happened. Chapter 3, verse 1. At last, Job spoke, and he cursed the day of his birth. I wish I had never been born. He said, let the day of my birth be erased, and that night I was conceived, that day, the day of my birth, I hope it disappears forever on the calendars of history. And then verse 8, let those who are experts at cursing, whose cursing could rouse Leviathan, curse that day. May the professionals, people who are paid, they're gifted, they're skilled, the experts, I hope they do their work on this one. This is the day. And you're like, whoa, Job, whoa. Wait a second. What happened to this Job chapter 1 guy? And this guy that we're like, who after losing everything still managed to say, the Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I'm like, this is not the same Job. This guy's lost it. He's raw. He's angry. He's in complete despair. And that's not what I expected, honestly, because this isn't the script we want. What I want is I want this nice, cleaned up version, the one where it makes sense of my understanding of God or what I want God to do, the one where suffering people say the right things. They don't wrestle. They're not cursing. They're not wrestling. They're not spitting anger. But Job doesn't play by that script. He doesn't pretend, and maybe, just maybe, there's a lesson right there for us. He doesn't play by the script. So what happened to that guy? Where did he go? Because I think somewhere in the 7 days of silence, something happened, something I think is profound and something that I think is really important. Something that words could never create. Because maybe, just maybe, as his friends were sitting there with him, a sense of trust started to build. Maybe he starts to think, oh, these guys get it. And maybe I can be real with them. Maybe I can finally take the mask off, and I don't have to be something other than what I'm really feeling. And I can feel whatever it is I need to feel. I don't have to feel a certain thing or a certain way. And so then he had this sense of maybe hope. He starts to pour it out, and I mean all of it, and the pain, the anger, the confusion, no filter, no cleanup, just raw, unedited suffering. And what if church could be that? Oh, that gives me a little hope. What if I could do that in front of you sometimes? That would be freedom for me. Where I don't have to be the cleaned up, polished pastor. Maybe we can even change and throw out the word pastor. Because there's too many connotations with that stupid word. At least how I grew up hearing that word. Blessed are those who mourn, who get out of here all of that crap. And I want to use a different word right now, but I'm scared of offending a few people. Just so you know, curse words are not bad words. They're called sting words because they're meant to bring a sting when you hear them. And sometimes those are the only words that are true and real for what we really feel. No other word could express it. So sometimes I want to use a sting word because nothing else can explain what it is we feel. That is an appropriate use of curse words, by the way. I give you freedom. I bless you. I'm not kidding. Blessed are those who mourn, who get out of here what is really happening in here. And that's when Eliphaz, the first friend, steps in. Oh, Eliphaz, this guy, yeah, he opens his mouth. And honestly, it would have been better if he just kept it shut. Because he immediately goes into this fix-it mode. And let's pay attention to his tone because you can hear the condescension just dripping from his words. And he starts off with, in chapter 4, he says, Then Eliphaz the Temanite replied, Will you be patient and let me say a word? For who could keep from speaking out? Job, I don't want to say anything, but I have to say something. In the past, you've encouraged many people. You have strengthened those who are weak. Your words have supported those who are falling. You encouraged those with shaky knees. Job, you've helped so many people. You've given great advice to people, to a lot of others. You've been the guy who's really lifted others up, but now trouble comes your way and you're struggling. Come on, man. But now when trouble strikes, your loose heart, you're terrified when it touches you. Doesn't your reverence for God give you confidence? Doesn't your life of integrity give you hope? And then he lays down this real zinger. Shouldn't your faith be your confidence? And you've done nothing wrong. You've got nothing to worry about. Stop and thinking about it. Do the innocent die? When have the upright ever been destroyed? My experience shows that those who plant trouble and cultivate evil, they're the ones that will harvest the same. Oh. So that's how it works. See, to Eliphaz, everything was this cause and effect. The good people are going to prosper. You get the blessing of God. Bad people are going to suffer. So if you're suffering, oh, what have you been doing? Oh, I don't want to be the one to say you've been bad, but there's a cause and effect here. Because Eliphaz, he's so sure. He's just so sure. He knows it because he understands God. He's got God figured out. His theology is charted like this mathematical equation. You sin, you suffer. You do good, you're going to prosper. It works. It's simple, Job. Let me just lay out the equation. I can draw it in the sand for you with a stick. 2 + 2 = 4. And this is why we start to see that maybe these Christian cliches can be dangerous, because Eliphaz doesn't even think. He just kind of pulls out this pre-approved list of spiritual sayings that make everything nice and tidy in our lives. If I were you, I would go to God and present my case to him. You should seek God and everything maybe will be fine. I hope it will. Oh, thanks, Eliphaz. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Maybe I've never thought of that one. Whew. Yeah, whoa, pray. Didn't think of that. Ah. Oh. Of course he has. And then he keeps talking. He says he performs countless miracles. He gives rain for the earth and protects those who suffer, which on its own sounds great. And technically it's true, but in this moment he's so tone deaf to this. Eliphaz, he's treating Job like and his suffering like some kind of formula, as if pain can be explained away with just the right words, the right quote, or the right Bible verse, slap some theology onto it. And then this guy, he's so sure. He knows what God does. He knows what God doesn't do. He knows what God is thinking. He knows what the problem is. And he's so happy to share this great wisdom with Job. Just to top it off, Eliphaz drops this gem right at the end. Oh, it's just beautiful. We have exclaimed this, and it is true, so hear it and apply it to yourself. Oh, well, if you've examined it, then it must be true. You're like, how do I even argue with this guy? And it's like he's claiming divine revelation. It's like, here's the trump card. I can't beat that. Job chapter 4. A word is secretly brought to me. I had this whisper in the night, a spirit floating by, and my hair stood on end. I see. So God himself told you what was happening. Well, that must be really nice. And this is where I love Job, because he actually pushes back. He doesn't just sit there and take it. He pushes back against this little formula that we as Christians like to have, because the formula doesn't work. Eliphaz is over here saying, if you're innocent, then you shouldn't be suffering. And Job, he's looking around saying, wait a minute, I've seen wicked people thrive. I've seen corrupt people sleep peacefully in their big houses, and I've seen selfish people live long, easy lives. And meanwhile, I'm over here scraping my boils with a piece of pottery. So no, Eliphaz, your system doesn't work all the time, and it doesn't add up the way that you think it does. And that's why this book is so important, because faith in God is not a formula. Hearing the voice of God is not a formula. Pain doesn't fit into nice little boxes in our lives, and sometimes the best thing we can do is stop trying to explain it. Job looks at his friend and says basically this, you know, you guys remind me of? You're like this mirage. This thirsty traveler looks out across the desert and thinks he sees water, and he gets hope. He gets really excited. And he runs up toward it, but when he gets there, it's nothing. It's just sand. And that's what his friends were to him. Because he thought they were real friends, and that they would sit with him and grieve with him and to be honest, where he could be honest about his pain and he could be vulnerable and let his walls down. But then they saw how deep his suffering was, and they got scared. And their fear made them defensive. And here's the thing. When you're defensive, you're never going to be able to bring comfort to anyone, ever, ever, ever. You just can't. Because now it's not even about the person who's hurting anymore. Now it's more about you. It's about you need to be right, or you need to explain, or you need to make sense of their suffering, because it's butting up against your own system of how God works, life works, and it doesn't start to make sense. And so you're trying to rationalize. Suddenly it's about you. And you guys know this happens. It's happened to all of us at some point. And if it hasn't happened to you, it actually has. You're just not. Just give it. Think about it. Bless you. Just bless you. You're with someone who's grieving, and at first you're with them and you're listening, and then something shifts. And you stop responding to their pain and you start reacting to their words, and at that point, you're no longer helping. That's the moment you go back to plan A, and plan A is shut up. Okay? Go back to plan A, always. Stay in plan A. Shut up and be quiet. Sit with them. Let them speak. Let them rage if that is what they need. Let them rage and curse God if that is what they need. God's big enough to handle it. That's between them and God. My kids have yelled at me. I was big enough to handle it. That's not when I shut them down. It's when I let them just get it out because I love them. God can handle a little rage if we give it to him. And if it's too much for you, if you can't do it, maybe you're not the one who should be with them right then. And that's okay. But know yourself enough to step back. And the problem is, Job's friends, they didn't have a level of self-awareness to know they needed to step back. And that's when we get to the next guy. You got Bildad. Oh, Bildad. He sits there, he listens to Job, who's just pouring out his heart, and then the first thing out of his mouth is, how long are you going to keep talking like this? Your words are just hot air. Thank you for that sensitivity. Yes. And here's what makes this worse. Job already had said back in the previous chapter, do you mean to correct what I say and treat my desperate words as wind? Don't you get that my words, the words of a person in deep pain who's wrestling with grief, I know my words are nothing but wind. They mean so little. I know that. I'm not even sure what it is that I'm saying. I'm just venting because I'm so hurting. And sometimes people say things they don't mean to say when they're in the middle of the pain. They haven't thought through them. It's a process. It's a thinking through. I don't even know what's coming out of me. I don't know if you've ever been there when you're hurting and you're venting and you just kind of let it all out. It's just the spewing of toxin, getting it out of your body. And sometimes you throw these words and and then someone later, they come back and they throw your words back at you. Well, you said this. Oh, shut up. I don't remember that. I'm sure I said it. I'm sure I said worse. I was just getting it out of me. And that's Bildad. He's not listening to the heart of Job. He's fact-checking Job's grief. And what he doesn't get, what a lot of people don't get, is that sometimes when people are mourning, their words are not the final answer. That's not the final. It's not where they land. It's just the storm, and it needs to blow through because deep down they still love God. They still love you. They still love the whole world. They're just in pain. And the last year has been a very hard place for me and my family. The world has felt like it has fallen apart around me, and you guys know I've shared a lot of that, and I've been hurting, and I have been a part of the problem. And I was recently sitting with my spiritual director, and I was just kind of vomiting all this anger and frustration and despair, and I kind of jobed her. And I'm so thankful she didn't try to correct me. I even got mad at her for just sitting and listening. Why aren't you fixing this? You're my spiritual director. Why aren't you defending me? Why aren't you telling me what to do? Why aren't you fighting for me? She just stayed with me. She listened and she saw past the things that were going on in my words, and she heard my heart, and that changed me, and it changed how I view God, and it changed who I could be with God, and honestly, it helps me want to stay to be a pastor. But Bildad didn't get it, and instead of seeing Job's pain, he kind of traps him with his theology, and he says, does God pervert justice? And now Job is stuck. Because if he says yes, well, he's a heretic, and if he says no, then Bildad's next point is, well, then, Job, your kids must have deserved what happened to them. Your children died, you're suffering, and your friend looks you in the eye and says, well, you know, God doesn't pervert justice. So, and then he gives Job a 3-point step plan. He said, seek God, plead for compassion, and be pure and upright. And honestly, those aren't bad things. I can't argue that. Problem is, it's not what he's saying. The problem is how he's using it. He's presenting it like a guarantee. If you do this, Job, God will restore you. He'll fix everything. Your future will even possibly be better than what it's been in the past. And the problem is, Job has already been doing all of those things his whole life. I got it. It's for me. Sorry. But the formula isn't working here because life isn't a formula. And then comes Zophar. And honestly, at this point, Job's done. He's already tapped out. Because Zophar, he's not bringing anything new. He's kind of just piling it higher. More theology, more formulas, more ways to explain away the experience that Job has had. But Job, he's still not buying it. And that's why I love Job. He doesn't buy into it. Because he's saying something a lot of us have felt but never said out loud. I hear what you're saying. I know the formula. I was taught it in church when I was a kid. I've been raised in the formula. But I also see a reality, and what I see is that the wicked don't always perish. That some of the worst people, they thrive while good people still suffer. And if that's true, then maybe your system doesn't work the way that you think it does. And man, that's an important conversation at that point. Because sometimes our tidy little religious Christian cliches, they don't hold up. And you know what? That's okay. It is so okay. And at that point, I want to bless you again. You can curse. Because faith isn't about having perfect answers. It's about trusting God even when we don't understand. Job finally loses it. And he fires back at his friend with some of the most glorious, sarcastic lines in all of the Bible. And I love what Job says in chapter 12. He says, wow, you guys are clearly the only people on earth who matter. When you die, wisdom itself will probably cease to exist. Wow. Yeah. And then he just lays into them. He says, I've heard all this before. You are miserable comforters, all of you. You're like doctors with no medicine, just making things worse. And the best part, God agrees with him. Fast forward, chapter 42. Huge fast forward. And God calls them evil. He says, they have spoken lies about me. So here's the thing. If we actually want to bring comfort to people who are suffering, if we show up to someone in real raw pain with pat answers and theological one-liners, and if we try to manipulate or condescend or shove our neat little explanations as someone else who is in unfixable grief, I want you to know right now, expect to get blasted. And if you're the one blasting, I just want to bless you in that too. You can blast away. I'm giving you the ammunition. Because sometimes the only appropriate response to suffering is go back to plan A. Silence. Shut up. And then we get a new guy that comes in. You didn't know we had a fourth guy, secret guy. He's the fourth guy in this, the mystery man. And his name is Elihu. And he comes into this mess, and honestly, he doesn't get a lot of airtime, but he's like the band member in the boy band that nobody remembers. But he comes in. He was there the whole time. Typically, he's like the drummer. You need him. He keeps the rhythm going, but I just forget who he is. And he's not perfect, by the way. And he still makes mistakes. And he still says some really stupid things, too. But what is great about this fourth guy that comes in is he comes in with a different spirit. And that is what makes all the difference. He comes in with this posture, and his heart is open, and that matters more than having the right words. Because even when you say something dumb, if you come with a heart that is humble, and honest and full of grace, it changes the entire conversation, and it's going to change the outcome. Elihu's first words to Job aren't a lecture. They aren't an explanation. Instead, he says, I am the same as you in God's sight. I, too, am just a piece of clay. In other words, I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to put you in your place. I'm just here. I'm just like you, and you don't need to fear me because I'm not going to pile on more stuff onto you. He doesn't try to explain away Job's pain. He doesn't try to shut him down. He doesn't try to simplify what is deeply complex. He just sits with him, and he does comfort him, but not in this attacking way. Something incredible happens is that then God shows up. And right in the middle of his speech, something shifts. It's beautiful. God starts to speak. And how does God speak? He does it in this whirlwind. So we just pause right there because that is an amazing picture. Job he's been living in chaos. His entire life is kind of in the storm, a whirlwind. And it's right there in the middle of all of that mess that God speaks. And that makes me kind of wonder, have you ever been in a whirlwind? So many moving things. I don't always know what's up, what's down. And maybe it's not a Job-level whirlwind for you. Maybe it's the kind of storm that knocks you just off center where you felt disoriented, and maybe it could be where it makes you question everything. Because when you're in a whirlwind like that, you don't need directions. You don't need a lecture. You don't need somebody fixing you. You just need someone to be with you, sitting Shiva. And that's what Elihu does. He facilitates a meeting between God and Job. And he helps create this space where where Job can hear God again. And wouldn't that be a gift of what the church could be? Where we to each other, and maybe even on a Sunday morning, can help each other hear the voice of God, because that is the point. We don't need each other's words. You don't need my words. We help each other listen to the voice of God, because those are the only words that will transform us. And it starts simply. I'm not saying we all have to go out and try and be this Elihu, but I do think we need to get better at comforting, at being able to comfort people that we love when they're grieving. And it starts with some really simple things. First of all, silence is golden, right there. When you don't know what to say, don't say anything. I bless you with that gift of shutting your mouth, the gift of silence. They're not waiting for you to say something profound. They don't want you to solve their situation. You don't need to have better theology. You just go to them, and when you get there, you just be. That is such a gift. Second thing, stop trying to fix what you can't fix. If someone is in deep pain, if that's what's happening, don't try to explain it away, because you don't actually know why. So let yourself off the hook, and please, for the love of all things holy, be careful of any Christian cliches. Just don't do it. My wife and I, one of the deepest pains we ever went through was 10 years of infertility. And in those 10 years of crying, deep pain, people came to us and said this with good intentions, the stupidest things. It actually, some of the things they said, it ended a few friendships because I could not be around them because they were so dumb. And it hurt so bad because they couldn't stop saying the stupid things over and over. And we couldn't be near them. They weren't actually helping. They were trying to make themselves feel better, or trying to guide us, or they were trying to look good, like we know the right thing to say. When God closes a door, he opens another window. Mike, that's a cesarean section. I don't even understand where you're going. Sorry, I just started to run down a joke, and sometimes I have to pull myself. Do you know how many jokes go through my head in a day? I have to hold them back. I was a cesarean section baby. I hate leaving through the front door. I'm always, where's the window? Sorry. That was where my brain was going. I'm like, I don't even know how to dial this back, but then I opened my mouth, and now I'm just awkward. To be my friend is to live in my awkward. I'm so sorry for my friends. Where have I gone? Just stop. I'm talking to myself. Push the default button, which again is silence. Third thing, let their words belong to the wind. People in pain say things they don't mean. Sometimes people rage, they curse, they will say things about God, themselves, and maybe even you. And here's the key. Don't pretend it didn't happen, but also don't act like it's their final answer. Write that down. Because they still love God. They still love you. They still love the world. They're just hurting. And do you know why it's important to stay? Because no one should have to suffer alone. No one has to go through pain alone. Think of someone in your life who maybe is going through a tough season right now. Shouldn't take you but a second. I know several people. What would it look like for you to be present to sit Shiva with them this week? And maybe they don't want you to. Maybe you do it anyhow. Ecclesiastes 4 says, 2 are better than 1. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Or as Jesus put it, blessed are those who mourn, who get out here the things going on in here, for they are the ones who get comforted. And my hope and my prayer is that this is actually true for us. Not just words from the Bible, not just something we say in church, but something that we learn how to live more and more and more. I'm going to pray. Lord, just thank you. Thank you for your words that you speak to us, for this picture of grace, and for the ways that you teach us how to actually care for the people that we love in very critical and holy moments of their lives. We pray that this would even be true among us, that when people mourn, they would truly be comforted, and that we would know how to sit in the storm with them. And that when the whirlwind comes, when the wind is howling and life is chaos, we would meet with you in the middle of it. And that we would hear your voice speak words of life to us.